off to the principal's office I go. Yo, you think this is bad? Wait till I get my report card.
G'day and welcome to episode 13 of the Principal's Office, the podcast series which aims to give viewers a greater insight into educational practice in schools. It's certainly much more than a 9 to 3 job. I'm your host, Matt Lewis, and today I'm very fortunate to have two amazing teachers. One's a relieving assistant principal in the bottom of our screen, Susan Ahn, and you're also an assistant principal for community languages schools on the weekend too, aren't you? Is that right?
Yes, I do relieve at times. Yeah,
right. Okay, so it's relieving, but certainly doing a wonderful job. And young gun, Sarah Tran, who's always been one of those people to highlight issues to me before they become a massive issue within the community, and gives me, as a principal, that heads up, because sometimes my head is in the sand, just like the proverbial ostrich. And I'm lucky that I've got people like Susan, like Sarah, who really keep me on my toes and make sure I'm responding to the community in the right way. So welcome, guys, and thank you for joining us today. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to be talking about digital technologies. But first and foremost, I'd like to hear a funny story that you've had in education so far. Now, Sarah, you haven't been a teacher for all that long. You actually were a pre-service teacher at our school, and then gained employment at our school after that. And I think it's been 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, about 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years, right. And Susan came to us as a Korean teacher, and then now you're in the mainstream, and you've been with us for about 8 years. Am I right in saying that? 10. Oh, goodness. Time flies when you're having fun, obviously. But in your career so far, certainly long enough to get a lot of funny stories, even write a book on funny stories probably. But Sarah, we'll start with you. What's a funny story you've had in education so far?
I'm not going to say a funny story, but this is a heartfelt story that brought happy tears.
Oh, cool.
That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
One day, my stage 1 students heard I was going to be missing out on a staff pizza party. They heard this over the announcements, so they asked, of course, who doesn't love pizza? So I told them I would be on playground duty, and they didn't say much. And then when I was doing my duty, I saw my students coming up to me, and I noticed they were holding something in their hands. They had slices of pizza covered in paper towels in a plate. And they were coming up to me, and I was saying, "What are you doing? You're out of bounds. Why are you in this area?" And they handed me this pizza slices saying, "Oh, we got this from the office, and this is because we knew you were missing out on pizza. We wanted to give this to you." So they handed me a note as well. And I almost cried, but I had to hold back. So that was really sweet. That was a heartfelt story for me.
Yeah, I remember that, and it had such a big impact on you. And you sent me a photo on Facebook Messenger as well. That was a lovely day, and that just goes to show you how lovely students can be in any school, but particularly ours, I suppose. They're very thoughtful and caring, aren't they? So what a story, what a great story. I'm sure you've had other stories to tell around the dinner table as well, but no, I love that story. Thanks, Sarah. That's a point of difference to our episodes. Everyone's been telling funny ones, but you've told a heartfelt one, so I like that. Susan, a funny story that doesn't involve me.
Then I'm going to tell you about what I was impressed with my stage 3 students then. It's not a funny story, but my students were working on Genius Hour in term 3. At the end of the term, when students had to present their project, many students and groups were using tools that I had been using when I was teaching them. So they were pretending like me, doing the presentations. And I was so impressed how they've been using the tools like website, using QR codes and Kahoot to engage their audience. and how, you know, the audience as their peers, they were so impressed with, you know, how their friends been presenting as well. So like I was so impressed what I've shown them has impacted them a lot with their presenting skills.
Yeah, wow. And that was quite a while ago, obviously, but yeah, wonderful
Maybe
stuff.
3 years ago.
Three? Was that only three?
I went 3 years ago.
3 years ago since you've been on stage three. But, you know, that is a wonderful story. You know what, ladies? You've now changed the principal's office forever, because now I'm going to say a funny story or a wonderful story you've had in education so far, because
Memorable.
or memorable, yes, yeah, because they're uplifting. That would make any teacher feel, you know, wonderful, obviously, and certainly inform our pre-service teachers of just the wonderful things that can happen, the rewards of teaching. You know what I mean? So yeah, fantastic. All right, let's get into our topic today. Let's talk about digital technologies. If you don't mind, ladies, give us a brief understanding of what digital technologies are and how we use them in our school's context.
So I think digital technology and information communications technologies both get mixed up, even by me. So information technology is information communications technology, ICT, are the devices that we use such as iPads, smartboards. It's mainly based in the education field. So we don't use it outside in other industries. It's ICT comes from education. So those devices and using those devices is based around ICT. Information technologies, digital technology, DT, is based around the thinking behind how these devices work. So it involves coding and computational thinking, or which are the skills or concepts that behind the use of ICT. So DT talks about being creators rather than consumers, and consumers work with ICT.
Yeah, right. Susan, your take on it?
Yeah, so Sarah has explained that very well. In short, so ICT supports students to be effective users of technology, where digital technologies build on and extend ICT skills, moving students from technology consumers to creators.
Right. So it's like problem solving, I suppose. You know, like
yes.
Yeah, you know, like we can do, you know, maths, for example, and we can do formal computation, blah blah blah. But it's when we get into the problem solving that we actually access a different part of the brain, and so the coding and the building of different programs and stuff like that. It's actually, I suppose, releasing other endorphins within children's brains that make them feel obviously more creative, but better about their response to it. And I suppose engaging in that, you would have seen it as teachers. It's certainly a situation in which children go, oh yeah, I'm really excited. I really want to be a part of this. And frustration at the same time, because we don't always come to the right answer, and we've got to change the code, or we've got to change the way we've built that program so it does work the way we want it to work. But, from that frustration leads to great reward, like we were talking about before for teachers, those wonderful things that happen for us. But once a child gets that little bit, that aha moment, that little bit of learning on board, then that's something that sticks with them forever. And if we provide those particular types of opportunities, they will remember them forever. And that's why, I suppose primary school ends up being one of those things that, is a wonderful memory for most people moving on into their lives. Thank you thank you for really clarifying that, because they are two very different things, but people can believe them for thinking that they're the same. So wonderful. Thank you so much. There is a digital technologies curriculum, right? Where can this be found, and can we integrate digital technologies into our units of work?
Yes, so you can find the digital technologies curriculum in ACARA website. There are also websites like Digital Technologies Hub. The Department of Education have STEM4L, where they support teachers with lesson ideas, curriculum, how they can implement the digital technologies in their units of work. The curriculum, and the difference between curriculum and syllabus is that the curriculum looks over overall content, as where syllabus is more descriptive and in detail. So digital technology, when you look at in detail, it's really easy to integrate into our everyday units of work, because it gives you a lot of options where you can utilize various tools in your units of work.
Yeah, and going on from those tools, there is a pedagogy wheel as opposed to pedagogy wheel. It's been developed to guide us on which apps to use for effective integration of digital technologies in our units of work. So that is one way, if teachers are stuck on how to integrate those digital technologies concepts, we can use the pedagogy wheel, which is always updated, which has a bunch of apps that you could use on those ICTs.
Yeah, look, I think there is a lot of stuff out there, and what we might do once this goes up on YouTube, we might put in the comments below some of those links for people to access, so that straight after watching this particular episode, they can actually get in and have a look at and see what we're talking about. So, yeah, wonderful.
And STEM4L has lending library where teachers can access and borrow equipment to use for their units of work, which is really good too. Even
the VR stuff, the virtual reality stuff, which is...
Yes, we borrowed a couple of terms ago, yes. Yeah, and it was really good. Kids were really excited about it. We had all the equipment with us, so we're not poor of the technology equipment. It was already there. We can borrow at any time. So yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, and look, but we need to make it clear to our pre-service teachers that we don't just get the technology and go, hey, let's do something different and let's do this. It's got to be planned within the sequence of the unit or the sequences of work that we're doing for that term, because then it's meaningful and it's within the context of their learning, and whatever they're reading at that particular time has an effect on that. So if they're doing something about, say, dinosaurs in year 2 or year 1, then they might be able to use the virtual reality goggles to create like a dinosaur type of landscape and those sorts of things. So it's got to be linked to what we're learning. Isn't that right, ladies?
Yes, you need to really understand the content that you are teaching in order for you to choose the right tool to implement in your units of work.
Yeah, because if we're just all about engagement, right, we're not going to get the necessary learning happening. So they're great engaging tools, but they can be used in such a way that can be so powerful. Wonderful, ladies. Thank you so much. Digital technologies has been a bit of a focus for the last couple of years. We know why at LICM, of course, but let's for the benefit of our pre-service teachers out there, why has that been so? Why are we focusing on digital technologies now?
So I think due to the ever-growing need in today's workforces for people to have an understanding of coding and critical thinking and computational thinking, I feel like there is a higher demand for these skill sets, and digital technologies allow students to critically think, collaborate and cooperate together to be able to understand these skill sets and pick these up as well.
Yeah, exactly. Susan, you got a...
So the digital technologies curriculum provides students with authentic learning. It challenges that foster curiosity. It builds confidence, persistence, innovation, creativity, respect, and cooperation for 21st century learners.
Yeah. And look, in the end, the world that they're going to exist in when they're your age, not my age because I'm very old, but when they're your age, it's going to be very different to now. And we're talking 20 years' time. So in 20 years' time, there's going to be artificial intelligence, and how do we control that? And, I'm going to be driving a car, but I'm not necessarily going to be driving. The car's going to drive itself, or they've got to have some understanding of that, and to exist in that world, to problem solve as to, I don't know, how to operate in that, how to solve issues if issues come around. It's and I suppose it goes hand in hand, digital technologies with the soft skills of how to manage people and how to negotiate and those sorts of things, because the very important jobs are going to be those CEOs and managers of different corporations and whatnot, that are, implementing these types of technologies and whatnot. So, yeah, excellent. Look, we've been on digital technologies for a while now, at least 3 or 4 years, Susan, since you invited that lecturer from South Australia, I think it was, to come over and present that for us. And we've been on a bit of a steep uphill climb ever since, really, trying to climb Everest, but it's certainly well worth it with the students. Yeah. Tell us about the best interventions you've come up with for your class or your stage, because we all talk together as a stage as well, as far as implementing digital technologies into your units of work is concerned.
So I had students coding spheros to move upturned cups around the floor. They were attached with pins in order to pop balloons. This is just to have them critically thinking which directions they needed to go, and using their computational thinking to decipher where they wanted to direct the pins to go towards the balloons in order to pop them. And we were learning about maths as well. I put shapes on the ground using tape, and they had to use the spheros to drive along those shapes. We learned about perimeter as well, looking at the distance and time they needed, and also the speed they needed to program the sphero in order to reach wherever they needed to go along the perimeter of those shapes. And also, I think 2 years ago, I worked with in the STEM club at school, with students programming mini computers called microbits to generate faces, which could make sounds and respond to movement on a milk carton monster. So that was a really fun, creative activity for those students as well.
Yeah. And the first one you talked about, cross-curricular, like you've got to be always, as a teacher, looking for, okay, well, this is going to suit my unit of work here. Is it going to suit another curriculum area like maths, like you did? So we need to seek out those opportunities, because that further exemplifies that aha moment. Oh, perimeter, that's about maths, and I've got to measure the outside, and they get it. They more readily get it because it's in a different circumstance that they're learning, about a maths concept. So fantastic. So yes, pre-service teachers, if you possibly can, look for other ways or other curriculum areas you can cover with particular learning lessons or whatever, because it is within that difference that, we certainly get a lot of learning on board. Susan, what about you?
It is best, but it's also my favorite activity that I did with my stage 3 students. We created a board with about a history unit, Australia as a nation. Now that unit is very heavy. It can be heavy. It could be really difficult for our EALD students and, with students who need more support. So what I have done almost at the end of the term, I created slides for every subtopics within the unit, and every student or in pairs or in groups of 3 was delegated to those subtopics. They had to research, summarize the topic in writing. They also had to film themselves in Flipgrid. So the kids who couldn't read English were able to at least listen and watch the video to understand the topic. And at the end, students had opportunity to go around the classrooms to scan the QR codes of the Flipgrid recordings and answer some questions. So that was really good activity, which involved researching, reading, writing, and also more speaking, where we sometimes don't do so much of speaking skills when we teach like history.
Yeah, exactly. And so it covered so many areas. And I remember that unit, and I remember thinking, going around the class and thinking, and listening to some of those conversations, that students were exploring further ways to go, but then pulling back to make sure that their presentation was at a certain level. But they were learning about, further on from that. And so, is this going to be part of our brief for our presentation? And then, they're saying, oh, well, we need to do this. No, actually, we need to keep it to the brief. So they were comprehending what their brief was all about, but also they still learned beyond what that what was meant to happen. You know what I mean? So when we put children in charge of their own learning, it makes such a difference, doesn't it? And that's when it gets really, really exciting. You ladies have been absolutely sensational today. That's our main questions done. And you in a short space of time, you've really given us a lot of information to move forward with, and cured those gaps between university and going into a school. I think our pre-service teachers now have a much better idea of what digital technologies are, and how they're going to actually use them in a unit of work. So absolutely sensational. Okay, it's now time for the song challenge. All right, so I'm a little bit nervous about this one, I have to say. You both gave me some artists to choose from, but I chose this particular one because I know that you both know it, okay? We need the song title and artist, okay? And for that, we get a Minty. It's a Minty. It's an Australian institution, Susan. Now, I do remember saying you've got to have Vegemite, and she absolutely hated Vegemite. But Minties are just a peppermint type of treat, okay? So they're all right. They will not kill you. Not the Vegemite will, all right? But I think it does. But one for the song, one for the artist. If you get both, then good luck to you. You may choose to share. That's fine as well, all right? So they're virtual now, but they will come to you, okay? I promise you. All right. Are you ready? I'm just going to read the words out. I'm not going to sing it, okay? Because that's cheating, all right? So just reading the words out. We'll see how we go, all right? Oh, I'm a little bit nervous. All right. Are you ready? Aram Dawa, Sarong Suroru, Gureno, Gurabaro no.
Sai
Gangnam Style.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. I don't know how you got that, because my Korean's not that good. It's all because of my teacher, actually. My teacher who taught me Korean wasn't very good. I actually said once that you will learn nothing in my class. I might have to put that clip up, but anyway. Yes, Sarah, it was Sai. Susan got Gangnam Style. Is that how we say Gangnam Style? Is that right? I don't know. Did I do all right?
Yeah.
Was it okay?
You did well.
Okay, all right.
It was okay. Very, very Australian, Korean. But yeah.
It wasn't going to be anything else, was it? I can't be Korean, but Australian Korean, I'm proud of that.
Good.
Well done. Well, that was quick. We've had people on the Song Challenge take ages and ages, like listening to crickets outside, or TikTok. It's been going on for hours. But you guys are very, very quick. So congratulations with that. Yeah, that's the end of our episode, and I'd like to thank you both for taking time out, because I know that these are the COVID specials, the principal's office episodes that are the learning from home ones, if you like, which is why I've got the silly thing on my face. But you're both at home at the moment, and I'm sure you're going to be logging on very soon to your classes to get them going, or to give them some feedback or check in on their well-being. Not an easy time, but I'm sure that people looking at or listening to this episode will certainly be charged with some positivity and some hope for the future. So thank you both for joining us today. I'd like to thank our executive producer, Erwin Manalo, who's just fantastic in helping me with all of this. 13 episodes now of the Principal's Office. It's going from strength to strength. So thank you for joining us online. To all those pre-service teachers or early career teachers that are joining us. Don't forget to hit us up on our socials, our Facebook page, the Principal's Office, my Twitter page, my LinkedIn page, and of course this is on a YouTube channel, so you'll see the arrows pointing downwards to subscribe, and we'd love you to do that. But anyway, thank you for joining us on episode 13 of the Principal's Office. I'm Matt Lewis. Thanks very much. See you later.
It's off to the principal's office you go. It's off to the principal's office I go.